Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to The Devil is a Part-Timer, Season 2, Episode 2. So, last time we just kind of got reintroduced to our characters, what they're doing with their lives and everything. And we got introduced to the new kind of thing of the season, clearly. The baby. Alice Ramis, I think was her name. Something like that. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But this, like, toddler, basically, claims to be the daughter of Mao and Amelia. And, yeah, it is clearly very childlike and everything in her character so far, though we don't know what kind of powers and shit she has. Let me check something real quick here. Yeah, okay. So, I just wanted to look up something real quick because if I'm being at all honest here, and I don't think I mentioned this last time, although the episode was fine and brought us into the season well and everything, since I reacted to it, since I recorded my reaction to it, I should say, I had been thinking about it a lot more, and it's taken me a little bit after recording the first one to get to this second one, simply because after thinking about it, I'm not sure that I like this entire baby direction, because I've seen many shows and all where like a baby character is suddenly introduced and it just feels unnatural and weird. It just feels like, oh, we're gonna bring in a cute baby character to try to drum up views. And I don't think I feel or I understand the need for Alice Ramis's character right now. Like, even with this series being, you know, a comedy and everything, it's like, why? Just why? Why bring in a character like this? Why bring in a plot point like this? And even bigger question, is Alice going to eventually just completely stay with the group for good? Just like everyone else has. It's like, okay, new characters come in, they stay. They just completely join the group. It's really fucking confusing, you know? As a decision, I don't understand it for the series. It just doesn't seem to be necessary or really feel natural. Like, I understand there's this entire thing, I guess you could say, between Mao and Amelia, where it's like a will they, won't they end up together and everything. And this kind of just throws an extra wrench into that by having Alice say that she's the daughter of both of them, which don't know how that's supposed to work for multiple reasons. But I just feel like this is just a fucking weird decision. Like, even for this show, I don't know. I'm just worried about it, I guess you could say. I'm worried that it's just going to feel like a trope. And it's like, you can do tropes well, but if the trope feels like a trope, that's not doing it well. You want it to feel natural with the story. You want it to feel like natural with the characters. You don't want it to feel like it's tropey. If it feels like it's tropey, that's a negative. And I don't know, it's just really worrying me again ever since I watched it. Ever since I reacted to the first episode, I've been thinking about this, and it's like, it's been concerning me, and it's made me not as excited to continue. And maybe I'm overthinking it. But again, I've seen multiple shows do this, not just animation, live action as well, where they suddenly just bring in a baby character, even if not permanently. Or not always even a baby, but just like a younger character who's meant to be a cute character for the sake of eliciting views. And it rarely goes well. Like, if you have a character like that from the beginning, that's a different story. But when you introduce them partway through, that's what it feels like to me. So, I'm just hoping that this doesn't end up being that. That Alice feels more natural within the context of the story and world. But we're going to see. This season is 12 episodes. I don't know how many are currently released. I don't know if it's still going. I assume maybe so. Unless it just finished. I don't know. Either way, well, if it was a summer anime, then it might just be finishing up. But either way, 12 episodes is not a lot to get through. But if I'm not enjoying it on the way to that, I'm not going to force myself. So we're going to see. We're going to see how this goes. And at the end of this, in the afterthoughts and everything, I'll go back to this. I'll come back to this and explain where I'm at that point, after we've, gotten to obviously see Alice more and see her as more of a notable character throughout this episode. I'll determine at that point, what I think, and we'll see how it goes. And I apologize for all the yawning. I don't know why it's happening. I never know why I yawn so much. But yeah, I'm hoping that this proves me wrong and doesn't just end up being another tropey situation. Because the first season of this show went out of its way to not be super tropey, even though it could have easily been. Even the tropes that were used were integrated well. So, hopefully, we don't have to worry about that here. But like I said, I'll update you all on this in the afterthought. So let's get this going. When the screen fades to black, pause the redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I talked about in the pre-thoughts how I was unsure about how this was going to be going forward, because I was concerned about Alice Ramos's role to play in the series because of, previous experiences with this kind of thing. And I mentioned that in the afterthoughts, I would let you guys know where I stood after seeing the second episode. So I'm going to get right to that before we talk about like the specifics of the episode and everything. I'm mixed. And I'm trying to be open and honest with you guys here. I don't know how I feel about this. Because here's the thing. I want to make something clear. I don't entirely dislike child characters as a whole. I've seen plenty of shows, movies, games, etc., where there's been child characters who I've loved, I've fallen in love with, who are awesome and great and everything. But there's also kind of that range where, especially if they're at a certain age, like Alice seems to be like, I don't know, maybe 4 years old at most. Like 3, 4 years old, maybe. I don't think she's younger than 3. But, like, I don't see her being older than 4, honestly, either. So I'm saying 3 to 4 years old. She reads to me as a character who could very easily get really fucking annoying. Like, really fucking annoying. And I don't mean that as, like, this huge negative towards children in general, like just screaming or whatnot being, like, a thing. Because, obviously, like, in real life, kids cry. They scream. It happens. Kids act up and everything. I'm talking in terms of the context of the series. I just feel like the dynamic and the way her character is could end up taking away more than it adds to the series. Because now that we've gotten to see the second episode, her personality is, she's just like a 3 to 4 year old kid. Like, there's not really anything else to her that we can tell at the moment, outside of, the fact that she's clearly something special. And we'll get to, like, what that ending could possibly mean for this in a bit, but I'm just still not sure about this dynamic. Because it's like, clearly, Mao and Amelia aren't her parents. Like, from everything that we know and everything, they're not. Why does she think they are? What is the deal with her powers? Why was she either sent there or just came there? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I feel like that's going to take some time. That may just be me, but I have this feeling that it's going to take time before it answers all of these questions, and instead just give us a lot more of the cutesy stuff. And while that's not inherently bad, I feel like the cutesy stuff just feels bland to me, for lack of a better way to put it. It doesn't feel like it's anything, like, it doesn't feel like it's adding to this at all. It's not necessarily taking away, but it doesn't, it's not like detrimental to the series, but it feels like it's not adding anything, and it's a little concerning that it leads me to feel a little to start questioning the series and everything. Again, not a lot or anything, but still. And I'm just not sure what to think about it. And what to think about her yet. And I think the only part of this episode that really stood out to me in a notably positive light, not that everything else was bad, it was just meh to me. The only thing that was like really positively standing out was the scene with Mao and Chi's boss talking to them. The fact that they actually addressed this topic in that mature way was actually really, really well done. Not just the fact that, it seemed like Mao suddenly had a child, but she also addressed the fact that it's going to fucking look weird to have this guy who apparently has a daughter and to have a teenage girl coming in and out of his house all the time when he's supposed to be an adult and everything. And it's like, yeah, there's some major red flags there, unquestionably. And she's even saying, like, even if it's innocent and all, people will draw their own conclusions, and that could do damage. That could ruin lives, whether or not there is any ill intent or not. And this is something that I've always kind of had in my mind with this series, even with season 1 and everything. You have to acknowledge that she is a teenager. She's a high schooler. Even if she's an older high schooler, she's still a teenager. She's a kid, by all intents and purposes. So, the fact that she pines after Mao, like, he's definitely not, like, trying to appear as an older adult or anything. He's definitely a very young adult. Like, I would say, like, honestly, no older than 20. I wouldn't even say he's supposed to be 21. But even so, it's like the idea of her pining after him is honestly not that harmful at all. But the idea of them actually being together is where things had started to get questionable for me. Because, yeah, he's an otherworldly being and everything. But you also have to take into account that she's still a teenager, and it's still like she's a human, and it's still fucking weird. Because we're humans watching this. And no matter what, an adult and a teenager dating is pretty much never okay. I think the only exception is if they were both teenagers when they started dating and one just ages up before the other. Like, that's a little more okay. Like if they're both in school together and, like, let's say the boyfriend, just saying, using these terms as well, just because I'm thinking of Mao and Chi specifically at this moment. Let's say the boyfriend ages up, or let's use gender neutral. Let's say one of the partners ages up to 18, a few months ahead of when the second partner's birthday is. So for a matter of months, the one partner A is 18 while partner B is still 17. Technically speaking, yeah, that's kind of concerning, especially from an outside looking in perspective. People looking at that will see, like, oh, this 18-year-old is dating this 17-year-old. That's gross. That's not okay. Even if they're not having sex or anything. But then you look at it, it's like, okay, but they were already dating when they were both underage. Their ages they're only a couple months apart. So is it really that bad? And it's a really questionable thing. It's not like a 30-year-old dating a teenager or anything. But it's something that's really hard to justify still. It's hard to figure out how to deal with that kind of thing. And again, I think I should... Here, let me look this up. Let me see if there is a canon age for Mao. Devil is a part-timer. Mao age. Okay, There is a canon age that he's falsified, according to this, for his human persona and everything. It's listing multiple characters. For some reason, Ashia's falsified age isn't listed here, though. But Mao is, in reality, over 300 years old. Because, demon and everything. But his falsified human age is 21. Amelia, by the way, her falsified human age is 20, and Urushihara's is 18. She, I guess depending on the point in the series, is 16 to 17, which is what I expected. I was saying she's probably an older teenager, but still. So even if you lowball that, because obviously she meets Mao very early on, that's a 5-year age gap from 16 to 21. It's hard to justify that. And even if a 4-year age gap was 17, it's like that's still very hard to justify. Because 21 is often that age you think, like, where you think about it, where, how do I put it? It's drinking age for a lot of places. And a lot of people, as such, tend to consider it kind of the true age where one becomes an adult. And obviously, drinking ages in different countries and whatnot are different. Some places are 18, some places 19, 20, and whatnot. It's like, but I mean, I feel in most places in the U.S. it's 21, and I'm just speaking from the perspective of a U.S. citizen. I wonder what it is in Japan. I'm looking up a bunch of stuff here. It might be different in different places of Japan. In Japan, it's 20. Okay. According to this, I guess maybe even if it's different in different places in Japan, I guess the just general is God, what's the word? Median age is 20. But yeah, either way, and I know dogs barking. And I know that in Japan as well, like the age of consent laws are different and everything. There's a lot of anime as such that that handles this kind of topic in sometimes a questionable way. Having like older teenagers be involved with adults more commonly, and it's something that, because I'm an American and because of the laws and everything here, it's what I naturally think of. And my general view on it is simply adults and teenagers should not date. Again, except maybe in the case of what I mentioned before, where it's like one just ages up before the other. But yeah, it's just the idea that, like, if you're an adult, do not date a teenager, and definitely don't have sex with them. That's statutory rape if you have sex with them. And it's just, it's a very difficult subject. Because again, different cultures, different laws, different viewpoints on all of this. And I'm not saying that necessarily makes it right or wrong. I don't know who is the most right in this situation. All I can say is based on my perspective. And I view it as like adults shouldn't date teenagers. That, typically speaking, that's not okay, and especially if there's this much of a gap. So this entire ramble here is basically noting that this series isn't perfect. That the entire thing with Chi and Mao, even though, again, he's technically not 21, he's technically over 300 years old. 21 is just a cover age, it's completely fake. Even so, she's still a teenager, and it's still not really okay. And I'm glad that this show touched on that. With their boss even saying, it's like, even if it's innocent, people will still draw their own conclusions, and it could lead to a lot of trouble. And so it's a very mature, sensible thing to bring up. Like, there's nothing wrong with Mao and Chi being on friendly terms. I mean, they're co-workers and all. Like, they can even, in a way, be friends. As long as there's nothing more than that, it's okay. But once it becomes more than that, it starts to get very questionable at best. And at worst, potentially illegal. And it's just something that I've struggled with a lot of anime. Because, like, as you know, I hated Kill la Kill for overly sexualizing. And not only just over sexualizing minors, but making that a point of the series and trying to clearly paint it as being okay. And trying to even, like, send messages and themes and ideas with it. And it's just like, it felt gross to me. This doesn't feel as gross because obviously there's nothing like sexual between them or anything. It doesn't come down to that. It's just she has a crush on him. And again, that's not even uncommon. A lot of teenagers have crushes on adults. Sometimes they're teachers, sometimes celebrities, or just other adults that happen to be around. It happens. It's just about whether or not anything is acted upon, and it shouldn't be. Especially, again, if there's a big enough age gap. If both partners are adults, at that point, I don't feel age gap matters as much. But yeah, if a teenager is involved, I mean, again, unless it's like a situation that I mentioned before, it's icky. And it's something that I have thought about with this series a lot, especially since watching and reacting to the first season. And again, while it never really goes too far or anything, it's something that does concern me. And especially with, let's be honest, at least at one point in this first season, Chi being sexualized in the show. With her large breasts being very prominently used as a joke. To show them off as well in a bit of notable fan service. It's just it's uncomfortable. And again, I know that that different cultures have different ways of viewing this and all, but it is still uncomfortable for me because of just how things are here. Things are different in different cultures, and they have been throughout time, and that's all well and good, but based on current day America, based on what my personal just views on it are, It's fucking weird. But yeah, it's like, I did like that they touched on that and they acknowledged that that is an issue with this. That self-awareness actually makes me feel a little better about how this series is portraying things, because it feels a lot more okay. That they understand there's an issue there. The original creator, uh, but I guess we'll have to see. And again, so far, Alice Ramos, um, I'm okay with her at the moment, but I could see her becoming really annoying, and I'm very concerned about that. Just admittedly. As for this episode specifically, because I've talked for over 20 minutes now, not actually talking about the specifics of this episode, there wasn't much to talk about, to be fair, until the end. It was mostly just, okay, there's this baby now. This 3 or 4-year-old girl says Mao is her father, says Amelia is her mother, and she's clearly got a lot more going on. So they're trying to figure out what to do with her, how to take care of her, all of that jazz, how to handle the fact that a child has, like, kind of literally fallen into their laps. So, what now? And that's basically the episode. It's just kind of touching on that idea, on that topic. What now? And there's not really much to talk about outside of, again, the ending, which I'll get to in just a second here, but also that moment I talked about where the stuff with Chi and Mao is addressed by their boss. So, let's talk about the ending. At the end, we see a few different characters in the other world, and they open a portal, a big one apparently, to this world. They're basically saying that they've located something, and I assume it's got to be Alice. And they came through, and at the end we see Urushihara notice that the portal was opened. Amelia, Mao, and Alice are all at the amusement park. So I feel like shit's about to go down. Either these new characters open the portal to the amusement park and are about to interfere with shit, or it's going to be nearby and Mao and them are going to notice and things are going to escalate and whatnot. Something like that. But these people seem to want to bring back the life tree, or give it energy, or, well, life again, something like that. Don't know what the deal with this is. Don't even know who these people are. But I guess we'll find out. I just dropped my headphones. I don't know where this is going. Like I said, I'm mixed on this with Alice Ramos at the moment. And admittedly, the stuff with Chi and her, like, massive thing for Mao is, again, just the fact that she has a crush on him is fine. Because, again, that stuff does happen. It's all about where it goes from there. But the fact that Mao is considering things, like, there's still, it's just, there is that issue there. The fact that he's considering things, like, again, even though he's technically 300 plus, she's still a teenager. It's still there. It's going to bother me. I'm sorry, it is. Well, no, I'm not sorry. I don't apologize for that, but yeah. Either way, it's just, I'm very mixed on this right now. I'm going to see how I feel when I get to recording the next episode and everything. We'll talk about it again there. Hopefully, I don't end up dropping this series. Hopefully we can get through the 12 episodes just fine. And we could just, move on. I understand it's a comedy. I understand all of that stuff. But it's not like Dragon Maid, which is a satire, which is a parody. This series really isn't. It's a slice of life comedy, but it's not a parody. It's not a satire. That's why Dragon Maid can get away with doing some more risque things, because it's meant to be a joke. It's meant to be making fun of these tropes. That's the point. And yes, it has a good heart and story to it, and great characters who are all very lovable. But it is, by nature, a satire, a parody, and that's what makes it a lot different from Devil's a Part-Timer, because this series is just the comedy. Not all comedies are parodies. All parodies may be comedies, but it is not the other way around. You get what I'm saying? So shows like that can get away with a lot more than shows like this that still have to adhere to certain things. It's like, that's why Dragon Maid can get away with having the entire thing with Luqua and Shota. It's like, it's still fucking weird. But we get what it's parodying. We understand what they're trying to make a joke out of. Like, it's a satire of this kind of thing in other shows. And Luqua just being a satire of overly sexualized and just overly sexual characters in general. So we understand the concept. And obviously Shota being a satire of Shotacons. Hence the name. We get the idea there. But again, that's not applicable with this series. You can't say that the entire thing with Chi and Mao is a satire on these kind of relationships in other shows or whatnot. That's not what's happening here. That's not how it's being played. So it makes it uncomfortable. It does. Again, mostly just with the fact that Mao is considering it. And I don't really ever expect them to have sex or anything like that. Like, I never expect it to go into that direction. But I'm just I don't know. Maybe it's a me thing, but it's if it's a me thing, it's a me thing. And I'm not going to apologize for my beliefs on that kind of thing. So I just wanted to touch on this a lot here to kind of give my thoughts on what this episode or what the series and season is doing and all. And hopefully it turns around for me, but we'll see. In the meantime, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of The Devil's a Part-Timer Season 2? And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.